just show up and hit. I just show up and spit hot fire of knowledge. Spit hot fire.
Well, welcome to Woodshop 101. This is episode 123 for April 16th, 2018. On today's show, we're going to talk about drawer door hardware and tool restoration. I'm Jeremy Crawford of the Countryside Workshop, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Sam Wooddell of Samurai Designs and Drew Short of Rock-n H Woodshop, and our special guest host Jimmy Diresta. What is going on, everybody?
Hello.
How's it going?
Oh, on a cold Sunday morning. Oh, it's not Sunday, is it?
It is Sunday.
Barely.
Thanks for having me, guys.
I wish it wasn't Sunday because then that means I didn't have to go back to work tomorrow.
I know. Same.
That's all right.
I'm sorry.
My dad's going to be here this afternoon, so I'm going to have a shop helper all week.
Nice.
And I got projects lined up for him to work on, so.
That's awesome. We like to thank our patrons, Michael Brindle, Devin, Richter, Sean McHenry, Carl Mose, Neil Sims, and Eric Rhoten. If you'd like to support the show, you can head over to woodshop101podcast.com/listen. Find the show notes for today's episode, and there will be links for small one-time donations and reoccurring donations. If you want to become a patron to our Patreon campaign, then head over to patreon.com/woodshop101. All of our patrons have access to our new after show. You can also buy a Woodshop 101 podcast shirt, hoodie, and Rev Marker pack. Go to countrysideworkshop.com/shop for the link.
Very good.
I didn't mess up, Drew.
Don't forget, guys, if you want to be a part of the show as well, you can also send us emails through kickback@woodshop101podcast.com. Voicemails, 409-234-3959. And you can give us questions, feedback, or what have you, just to be a part of the show. We appreciate it.
Yeah. So what's going on in you guys' shop? What are you working on?
Who first? Me?
Yeah. Go, Jimmy. What are you working on?
I just spent the last 5 days, if you guys follow my Instagram stories, I've been building a display for a Bulleit Bourbon install that's going to take place in New York Tuesday for the Tribeca Film Festival. From time to time, Bulleit and a couple of the various liquor companies I work for, they'll do installs. And it's just a big advertising activation is what they call it. And I had to make this big backdrop. A designer, I don't know who, some designer somewhere in the world designed it, and then I get a picture of it through my guy that hires me. And it's like pretty much like I can improvise on it if I want, but they just said this is kind of the look we're going for. And through Home Depot, I went and bought all the materials and got it all going. And it was like a three-day deadline. And then I had the last crown jewel for the piece was a channel letter sign, which I've made 10 times already. Every time I make them, they lose them, drop them, break them. And so I had to make another one to fit this particular set of backdrops.
Nice.
So I did that last night, and I had to make two of them. I had to make two of the signs, that is. So I made a little one and a big one. The little one goes to a different client that's involved with advertising for Dickel. I keep saying Dickel. I meant to say Bulleit Bourbon. Did I say Dickel before this? Because I keep saying it all week long.
No,
I'm working for Dickel.
No, you said Bulleit Bourbon.
They're interchangeable because they're both from the same client. So, yeah, for Bulleit Bourbon. So I was doing that, and that was a lot of fun. I like having hard, fast deadlines because I really can kick some ass and go to town and make fast decisions. When I have no hard, fast deadline, I always go, I'll do that later.
Look, I know about that. That's how a dining room table has been 5 years in the making. It's because
I tell clients straight up, I'm like, give me a deadline. I go and lie to me, but make sure you know. Or when I get early on, I'm like, well, when we develop a deadline, just give it to me, but give yourself some room. I said I won't not meet it, but just so you have some time for shipping and whatever else.
Yeah.
So,
What kind of deadline do you usually kind of try and help them develop?
I just tell them lie to me. That's what I say. Don't tell me the real deadline. Just give me a deadline that I have to meet, and that could be a day or two ahead of when it's really needed. All this stuff now is done, and somebody's going to come pick it up, thankfully, because it's got to go down to the city, which is 130 miles away. And I have a truck. Brett's got a truck, but there's a lot of volume of this material. There's big backdrops and jack stands and barrel heads and all kinds of stuff. So they have a guy's going to come up here tomorrow at one point and pick it all up, and then we'll meet in the city on Tuesday and install it where it needs to go. So that's a a real big help is that I don't have to actually carry it all downtown. Downtown.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Did that answer the question? I forgot what the question was.
Yeah, what you're working on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it on your Instagram. It looks really cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
it does.
thanks.
That looks awesome.
A lot of fun. Yeah, they sent over these drawings with all this black pipe screwed together, and I hate doing that. Like when you see, it's fun when you have the time to sit in a Lyle Home Depot and count how many flanges you need, how many sections of 1-inch pipe, and that would have taken too long. So I just said, screw it. I bought all the pipe I needed, cut it up, and welded it together. Because at the end of the day, this is going to be in a dark room with people drinking, and they're just going to look at the liquor. They don't want to really look at the shelves. So that therein lies where I can improvise. You know, the designer might see and go, this isn't what I drew. I was like, well, I got it 2 days before, and this is how I have to do it. So to sit there and count out, it probably would have been 100 or more flanges, and you know, this just gets too overwhelming.
That's a lot.
And not to mention, every little pipe section in between has to be threaded to the right length. And when you thread gas pipe together, you could like tighten it in and it feels tight. The next one, it's the same exact length. You tighten it in and it feels tight, and they're a half-inch difference in height. So, and a lot of wrenching and a lot of stuff. So it does look good when you have the time to really take the time to make a plumbing fixture that looks like a set of shelves. But
y'all keep talking. I'll be right back.
I know. I want to get into
welding is a lot easier. Welding is a lot. Did you try welding at Workbench Con?
I did. Lincoln had me try, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's addicting.
It's a lot easier than people make it out to be, and that's part of what my mission is working with Lincoln, is to demystify how it's not as complicated, and you don't need to get certified to build grips and buildings with it. You just need a welder, and you just need some ideas, and if you're making a table leg, or if you're going to repair some farm equipment, it's once you have it, you start coming up with ideas.
Yes, I know. I really want to. And the guy that I talked to was super great. He was super nice.
Craig, I saw Craig. Craig was there, redheaded guy?
Yes.
He's like a superhero without his superhero costume on.
Yeah. And I was scared. He does. And then I put the mask on, and that was like the coolest thing, where it like went black, and then you just saw like the green. I was nervous, but I was like, that is so cool. And I was like immediately addicted. I was like, I want one of these in the shop.
My brother's been doing welding for most of his life. He took ag back in high school, and his first lesson in welding was taking 2 pieces of angle iron and then butting the 2 points together to make 4 chambers. And the first chamber, he would just do a standard bead just on a horizontal plane. Then he would set it up and then weld up vertically, then weld down vertically. I can't remember what the 4th chamber was, but the object and your final grade was to fill up all 4 of those chambers and make that piece of angle iron, or those 2 pieces of angle iron, a solid square.
Oh, wow.
So that they did that the entire year to make sure that they knew how to weld in all different directions.
Oh, that's funny.
Cool.
And see, the funny thing is when you take a welding class, they focus on all the structures of the welds. Of course, it's important. But if you have your own welder and you can do whatever you want and there's no teacher, you could just like weld a screwdriver to a crowbar, and you start having fun like welding a pair of scissors to a table. And that's what's fun. That's where the creativity comes in, is just start attaching things together and making mutant tools. And you could make like a wrench, a table leg, just weld it to a flange, and you realize you could weld something to a bolt, or weld a bolt onto something, and then that you have like an adjustable leg of a table or something.
Yeah, who needs glue?
Cool.
Yeah. So there's when you have a welder, me personally, with any particular tool I have, I never really know what I'm going to do with it. I just say bring the tool here, and the creativity will be born out of the tool itself. And welding is one of those for sure.
That's really cool. Now I want one even more.
What do you want? Do you want a stick welder or a MIG? Or
oh gosh, wait, hold on. That's getting a little too intricate. I need to look at that a little more, and then I'll let you know.
I can give you quick advice. There's a stick, which is the old traditional, like we see the guy holding the thing with the rod. The electrode is the wire, is the filler, you're holding it on a handle. That's stick welding. That's like traditional. Like you might see like Bugs Bunny doing that. There's MIG welding, which is basically the same thing, but instead of holding the electrode is fed from the inside of the gun, and so is gas. So you have the little thin wire. That's what you did at Workbench.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
I'll take one of those. Whatever I did at
That's the
Workbench.
easy one. Yeah, that's a little bit easier to handle. And then there's TIG, which is where you hold the torch in one hand and the filler rod in the other, and you usually see like more of like the artistry of the motorcycle builders using that because it's a little bit more controllable. In the way that you could do a really fine weld, you could weld really thin material. You can in all the processes. It just depends on how good you are and what things you use. But MIG is just to pull the trigger, the wire comes out, the gas comes out. That's the easiest one, and that's where you should really start.
Okay.
And you could buy, and another to demystify this a little bit, Home Depot sells the 140 and the 180 from Lincoln. Home Depot and the orange and the blue companies, whatever they're called, Lowe's, they both sell the 140 and the 180. They're great welders, and they market them in store where you use them with a flux core wire. So instead of having to put the gas on it with the gauges, which gets a little intimidating because I know I went through it myself years ago, they sell a wire that has flux in the middle of it. Every time you weld, the weld needs to be shielded from real oxygen. And that's why those electrodes have what looks like clay on the outside of them. The electrodes are the ones you hold in your hand and they stick weld. That clay is shielding it's flux that will melt over your weld and eliminate the oxygen. When you pull the trigger on the other one, the wire comes out and the gas shields. So there is no actual clay. That's just more of like a virtual shield. It's gas, so you don't see it. And when you use what's called the flux core wire, the flux is in the middle of the wire. So if you picked up that wire and bent it, you'll notice it's kind of like a reed. It's got a microscopic hollow center. And when you could MIG weld without a gas shield with no tank if you use the right wire. And when you see it in Home Depot, that's usually how they market those machines. So you could buy them with a inner shield is what it's called if you see the wire. And now I'm getting everyone's
inner shield.
Yeah.
I don't have a pencil.
you could.
How are you in the shop and you don't have a pencil?
If you really want to get down and dirty with it, just let me know and I can guide you to what's neat. So inner shielded, it's like it's the wire you'd buy, the 211 inner shield wire, and it's smoky and splattery, but it works.
Okay.
And it's a way. A lot of guys buy those machines just to kind of have as a repair machine on the spot. You don't have to carry a bottle with you.
Nice.
But that's how I started welding in my New York City shop, is with inner shielded wire or flux core, interchangeable name.
Perfect.
And super smoky, splattery, but if you really focus on the weld you're making, you can get a good weld. It's just like bumps and bumps you got to scrape off.
Perfect. Well, I'll definitely reach out because that's something I want to do.
Yeah. It's definitely accessible for everybody. You just got to take the leap and don't worry.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I've done welding, quite a bit of welding in the past, but it's been a long time. It's 6 years, I think, since the last time I welded, so I want to get a welder and get back into it. So. And
I also say, obviously I work for Lincoln and I push to buy Lincoln, but go on Craigslist and buy a used welder. There's lots of used welders on Craigslist. So I looked last night in the 140. It's in my Instagram story that I did last night. We were at, Taylor and I went to Home Depot. The 140 is like about $500, which I remember buying my 140 about 10 years ago or 11 years ago when I first really started to learn how to weld. And I think I paid $300 for it. So the price has gone up considerably. So, but there's lots of them on Craigslist. So just get a good sturdy one on Craigslist from somebody that hasn't used it too much. A lot of times people will buy them to do one thing and then they don't need it, or they buy it and they thought they were going to get into it. And so you can buy pretty good, healthy machines on Craigslist pretty often.
Nice.
For half the price.
Nice.
And it's a stock machine, so if you enter into it knowing that you're going to upgrade in time as your skills get better, you know what. Also, Eastwood sells those cheap ones, and Harbor Freight sells those cheap ones. A lot of guys will get them just to get over the intimidation factor, and then they immediately buy something like a Lincoln or something, a bigger machine. Because those machines were only like $100 and something bucks. Those really cheap entry-level machines.
Yeah.
And then my buddy bought one. We were at a flea market last summer. My buddy who was here, who's never welded, we were at the flea market that I'm going to go to after this. And he saw it. He picked it up for $50 with the gloves and the helmet and everything. And he's been using it. And he's like, I love this. And then he realizes its limitations. And now he's buying a Lincoln MP210.
Yeah.
So he went from $50 machine to a $1,500 machine.
Oh, that's a big leap.
That is.
But he understands the limitations because he's tried
Yeah.
mine and he realizes, wow, this thing is like driving a Cadillac. This gets me to where I'm going, but it's like driving on a bumpy road. So
Yeah. Definitely, like with now going, like full-time makers should definitely invest in, I feel like, like a quicker.
you're obviously a woodworker, most of what you do. And if you start doing little accents of steel, like maybe steel legs or just like a steel edge band or something like that, all of a sudden it starts to expand what you can do.
Yeah.
And again, the ideas start flowing.
Oh my gosh. My grandpa will be like, you're crazy. Because I already have like a million ideas. And he's always like, oh gosh, you're insane.
Gotta pick one. Gotta pick one and give it a try and then move on to the next.
Yeah. No, I can do all of them. I'm just kidding.
Tell Gramps he's going to have to learn.
You can do all of them, but you have to pick one to try first.
Yes.
You can't try them all at the exact same time.
No, I know that.
So, all right, Drew, well, what are you working on?
Well, I just delivered the floating shelves that I made for a client to their home.
Those are
awesome. Those looked really cool.
Yeah.
The clearance, whenever I installed them, I put a storyboard on the wall, and I was making clearances of just a half inch for every trophy case that he had. And once I installed them, we put those trophy cases on top. I was just like, oh, God, that looks so good. But it was really tight, so when he was putting them up there, I was like, is it going to fit? Is it going to fit?
That's like the worst feeling.
Yeah, I know. But they turned out really, really good, and he was very happy. And then I've got I'm in the middle of an X-brace barn door for another client, and I've got a show also coming up on April 25th, and I'm just making up several cutting board blanks for end grain, face grain, edge grain, just a whole different variety and different patterns. So I'm trying to do multiple things at once at the moment.
Nice.
Nice.
Very cool.
Is that all for like sports memorabilia or?
Yeah. It was specific for football helmets.
Well, I saw those. Are those like? Did you get them? Did you get the helmets from like actual games or?
I know. I was just looking at them.
Yeah. Well, some of them he bought.
He does have like Sam's favorite team up there, the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
He bought the.
That's a baseball team, right?
Yeah, I thought it was a soccer team.
Hockey.
Socky.
He bought that Kevin Durant signed basketball because it was a college ball where Kevin Durant went to school. I believe that was in North Carolina. And I think the Dallas Cowboy helmets he had signed at a game.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So it
is cool.
You said you had more builds coming up for that family?
Yeah, there's a built-in bench that they want done in an alcove next to their fireplace. And they want to do a shiplap wall behind it and then possibly 2 floating shelves above it. So
nice.
I got a few coming up for them.
Very cool.
Yeah. What are you doing, Sam? What do you got going on?
Finishing that big white oak table, which my computer is sitting on the legs right now. Finishing that and the bent lamination table, which is super cool. So that's definitely been fun to learn.
Yeah. What in the process are you of that? I saw your Instagram post that it looked like it was fully assembled.
Done.
Is it?
Yeah.
You just need to put that thing looks pretty awesome.
So we're making another little piece that will go so it's going to be all like light oak. So we veneered the front of the aprons, and then we're going to take like a darker, like maybe walnut or something, and like outline the bottom of the bent lamination, like apron curves, just to give it some contrast. So that's the only thing that's next. And then we're done.
Nice.
We just have to finish it.
What kind, like, where is it going to go in the house? Because it's
so it's going in my client's behind there. So they are empty nesters, and they sometimes want to eat, like, I guess, behind their couch and when they entertain. So it's going to go behind the like curve of their L-shaped couch. Okay. And like it like fits perfectly. It's awesome. It's like seamless.
Did you guys take it take the top or take the apron? How do you know it fits? Like a charm?
So it's my grandfather's brother, actually. So my grandpa, everybody in the family has something built from him. So they ordered through me, and he's helping me build. So they were visiting. My grandparents were down there visiting, and my grandpa, you know him, he took a template and cut it out. So then we put it on top. And actually his curve, the back of his couch is the same curve as they have. So we tried it on theirs, and it fits like perfect. It's really cool. Nice. So I'm excited to show you the pictures when it's done.
Where's the table going to be delivered to? Where do they live at?
North Carolina. So.
Where at North Carolina?
Charlotte.
So you got to ship it?
No. So we're either going to go down or they're going to come up and get it. So.
If you come
we
down,
haven't decided yet.
If you come down, you definitely have to take an extra day. Let me know, and I'll drive up because it's only like.
Jeremy wants to see it.
Well, yeah. Well, even hang out. So, it is literally only 2.5, 3 hours from me. Maybe 3.5, but it's not. Charlotte's not far, so.
Don't make her come see you. She was 2 hours away from me down in Texas.
She was 45 minutes. She was 25 minutes from me, and she didn't even come over.
I thought I was 5 hours away from you.
No, it was less than 3. It was 2 hours and 15 minutes from Austin.
Really?
It's just a different state.
That's crazy. Sorry.
25 minutes, Drew. 25 minutes, and Sam couldn't even come say hi.
She was still new.
Yeah, and I was didn't have a car. You gonna come pick me up?
Yeah, I'm down in Kiel all the time. When
I'm there, I'll text you.
Some of the best shark fishing is out of that area.
And we'll be there Mother's Day weekend, all the way through the 19th.
I think I'll just be getting back in town then. I get back the 11th, I think. When's Mother's Day?
Sunday.
12th, like the 12th or something, right?
I think so.
So I'll be getting back that Saturday. I'll be in Virginia for those 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks before that.
And Jimmy, just so you know, you have a standing invitation to my house if you want to.
Right on.
I'll feed you.
You gonna be there tonight?
If you want to take the drive, sure.
We know Jimmy.
I was emailing with Ted last night. I said to Ted, I go, when are you going to do the hoedown in the woods again? He said he's been too busy to organize it this year. In Oklahoma. Did you go? Who went to that thing last year? The Oklahoma hoedown.
Drew did.
I went the second day. I wasn't able to go the first day.
Yeah, I wasn't there the first day, and everyone got mad at me for not being there. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I was driving for 85 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bought your ice pick from you that day.
Did it still hold up? Because everybody was throwing it in the ground and coming back to me going, the tip bent. I'm like, what'd you do with it? I threw it into the rocks. I'm like, oh, that's usually not a good idea.
I mean, that's a pretty big indicator. This isn't to chip rock, so.
Yeah.
That ice pick.
I brought with me that trip all the Chinese ones that I had. I don't have any more. I only made 1,000 Chinese ones. I went back to just making them myself. So the ones because the Chinese ones, the tips are a little.
Yeah, so basically,
I'll get you one. Don't worry.
Yeah,
I gotta get a handmade one now because I think I got the Chinese one.
You do, I know, because those are the only ones I had with me there.
So all right, well, I've got quite a bit going on in the shop. I'm working on a couple actual sponsored posts and videos, hammering out a couple of those contracts to get them out for some companies. And then one of them is somehow I got roped into that Instagram Builders Challenge, which ends in 5 days, and I haven't even started on it.
They know your history, right?
Yeah. Well, part of it's a sponsored post with DIY hairpin legs. And the company's awesome. You can find them on Instagram, but they make more than hairpin legs. They sent me over 2 of their X brace legs. So I got to build the table with those, and I haven't even started on it. So that's one of those projects that my dad's going to be working on while he's here. So.
Is Blackwater Woodworks working on that too? I saw him post a hairpin leg table.
I have no idea.
I think he is.
So I've been so far out of it. I know that several people approached me and kind of, I don't want to say twist my arm, because I definitely said I would do it, but more or less approaching me about why I didn't sign up, and so I went ahead and said I would do it, and now here we are 5 days away from the deadline. I haven't started on it, so been
you
quite
think
busy.
they'll invite you
A
back?
quick deadline.
Well, I literally have three projects going on at the same time in the shop right now. I just finished that rolling tool cart that I made with all the Simpson products, the Simpson Strong Ties, and then I'm trying to finish up the little cabinet thing I'm making for my kids' game room, and working on finishing up the dining room table. So it finish will be going on it maybe today if the rain holds off. If not, it'll be going on tomorrow.
I love the razzing you were getting about that table.
Yeah, look, I finally enough people finally razzed me that after 5 years it will be done.
Dude, that was funny.
So it's I went and picked up some Rubio. Not entirely sure I'm going to end up using Rubio on it though, after talking to the people, like the distributor here, because he was saying that if any kind of water sits on the surface for any substantial amount of time, it'll reactivate the finish. And I don't think that's probably what I need for a dining room table with 2 kids.
Yeah. That's what, because she wanted it for the big white oak table. And when I went to my local supplier, he said the same thing. But he did say then there was something that you could put on top of it. They don't advertise, which I totally forgot the name of it. But I have to go back there this week and I got to ask him the name. Because they don't advertise it, I guess, because I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I picked up a little bottle. I'm just going to play around with it. But I decided, I was like, I'm pretty sure I don't need to put it on a dining room table with 2 kids.
Yeah,
because
she has 2 kids,
everything spills on it. And
yeah.
At one point, I might even find a kid chewing on the table. I'm not sure. So
yeah. I steered her away from it, too. I was like, you might not want it with 2 kids.
Yeah.
So we went to using the normal.
So. Unlike what I told Megan of Sweet Aloha, I'm going to use General Finishes gel stain on it. And then the guy that I was talking to actually said that water-based clear finishes don't get the hot spots from the heat like oil-based polyurethane does. So I'm gonna give it a try. I don't know, and I'm gonna put a water-based top coat on it. The one I want.
Did you ever ask him about the lacquer if it did that too?
I didn't. I should have. I may go to to Sheridan Williams and ask. But the finish I wanted to put on it, because I like that ambering of the oil. I wanted to put the General Finishes Endurovar because it's water-based, but it still has the same ambering effect. But I can't get it locally. And I don't want to order anything because then that's going to push it back another week or 2 weeks for me to put the finish on. I'm trying to have by Wednesday the entire table done. So
So you got a deadline now.
I superimposed, like I put it on myself.
Drew. Look at.
Look at what? Ah, what's going on, Gramps? How are you?
Oh, look at the shirt. I like it.
Can they see me?
Yes, I can see you. Can he see me?
How you doing, Gramps?
The last time I did one of these things, you only saw Sam and not me.
Well, that's because she was pushing you out of the way.
I cut her out. Move, Grandpa. So, yeah. Can you hear them? No. You can't
No,
hear
you
them.
have headphones in.
Get headphones.
You know what?
Give me one.
Say hi.
How you doing, Gramps?
Pretty good. I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Very well.
For a Sunday morning, I'm doing decent.
Good.
Yeah. So, that's so funny. He had to come in and say, I had to show him.
Yeah, see?
He was like, oh, you have it this morning. I was like, yeah, you have to show Drew. So
That's one of my older shirts. That's like my first edition shirts right there.
Well, it's an antique, I guess, huh? A collector's item.
When I make more, I'll send you another.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Good. All right, guys.
Well, it was
have
good seeing
fun.
you.
Yeah, I'm going to go do some work.
Yeah. Oh, see, Sam's off goofing around, and she's putting you to work.
Goofing around like usual. So
Smack her around with that wood, just like before.
I know, right? That was a good one, though.
Yeah.
That was a good picture.
Okay, guys. We'll see ya.
See.
Bye.
But
Bye, Gramps. It's so funny. All right.
So, yeah, Jimmy, do you have much experience with like water-based finish, like water-based polyurethane, like polyacrylic or anything like that?
yeah, I like polyacrylic with general finishes. I really like the way it looks. You build up about 3 coats.
Does it blush or not blush? Does it get hot spots? Like if you put like a hot plate down, does it cloud up like an oil base?
Oh, you know, it seems like I've never seen that happen, but I wouldn't put a hot plate on it because you just never know what to expect.
So more like, you know, it's a dining room table, so you can at some point may have something of heat on there. The last table that we had, it had an oil base, and my wife was cooking bread. She put the bread on towels and put it on top of the table, and they generated enough heat that the oil base finish clouded under. Like you could see.
Did it go away or it stayed that way?
No, it stayed there. I had to completely sand it out and refinish it.
Oh wow, that's funny. I never had any experience with that personally. There was a restaurant in Brooklyn that I used to eat at all the time, and I always admired the tables there. They're all water poly based. They look really nice on old vintage wood, and they really held up good. I mean, and that's in a restaurant setting where they get beat up constantly. And over the years, I've noticed that the tables always held up nice. Sort of the first time I ever saw a commercially used water-based poly on top of something, and it was just the first time I really noticed water-based poly out in the public.
Yeah.
And anyway, it held up good, but they had a nice thick coat on it too.
Yeah, so I think that's the way I'm going to go. So
Is the water-based poly, is it good for spraying or not?
Spray's good.
I've
That's
sprayed
good.
it. Oh yeah.
I gotta let my cat in. Give me a second.
Yeah, go
Excuse me
ahead.
out.
No, I've sprayed it before. Had no problem. It does.
Yeah.
You have to definitely dial back the fluid because it will come out and build up really fast. So
Yeah. We did the polyacrylic on the table the white oak table, but I did it in one spot and it was raising the grain, you know? So we put, oh, look, it's so cute. Oh my gosh, so cute.
My face hat.
So all of your like pets are like the cutest. That one dog is hilarious. I'm like,
Wait, which one?
So,
the little Yorkie?
Yes, it's so cute.
Chippy's my best. He's my best. Chippy's my birthday present for my 50th birthday last year.
Oh.
I've had a few Yorkies in my life, and we had 3 cats. Unfortunately, we lost one. She got run over by a sand truck during the winter. It was really sad, yeah. She was the one who was very playful in some of my early videos. I never announce when we lose a pet because it's just too depressing.
Yeah.
She's rubbing on the microphone.
She's so cute.
And almost all of our pets we found. I mean, we did buy Chippy from a proper breeder, but this cat we found, and Spike, who's in the other room complaining, we found Spike at a lumberyard, and I got Timber, the cat that we lost over the winter. We got her. We went to go maybe look at a building to buy, and she was in the building as a kitten. So the guy goes, "Get rid of her. We don't want her." So we took her from that day. We went to go look at the house, and then we just took in another rescue, which I'll show in the next vlog. We're gonna foster this. He looks like Benji from like the Disney movies. He's like about a 30-pound, 20-pound Yorkie. Maybe he's like 20.
Maybe it's
a big
sibling
Yorkie.
to my dog.
Oh,
Maybe it's its sibling because he looks like Benji, like legit.
right.
And like it's so funny because I'm a huge animal person. I found 5 baby kittens in a foreclosed home. Someone just closed them in the desk drawer. They were like 2 weeks old. They were so little, and they were like gray little kittens. So we had to keep them. That was like, they have like 50-50 chance because they're only 2 weeks old. They need their mom.
Yeah.
But all but one passed away, and I kept one.
Oh.
And then we adopted a dog, and it looks like Benji. And we're like, you might have some siblings out there. And he has an underbite. So I can't wait to see in your vlog.
Yeah. I would go grab him now, but it would be to do because he's in his box right now, and he's really well behaved. I mean, we got him and he wanted to bite everybody, but after a couple of days, he really likes me, so that's really nice. Because I wouldn't pet him unless I had on an oven mitt because I didn't know what to expect from him. But now he's very sweet, and then we have Bear, which we got driving home from New Orleans 4 years ago on the side of the road. And who else? Oh, and then we have Peppers, a little black kind of terrier-looking dog. We got her from an animal shelter in Harlem.
Nice.
So Chippy's the only snobby little purebred.
Chippies. I want to come hang out at your house. I wouldn't want to leave.
Oh yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. And Taylor has a horse now, which we keep at a barn nearby. But eventually, she'll be on the property.
That's awesome.
And then when you have a horse, of course, you need a companion. Yeah, we got a lot of animals.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
We'll get a donkey or a sheep or something. And then we have about 45 chickens. We lost count. We used to count the chickens every night. Now we just don't care. Just like, all right, I think they're all in. There's like one walking around the driveway at midnight. Like, you better get back in your coop. We're like, okay. And she finds a tree to sleep in.
Oh, that's so funny. I know your videos when you go in the chicken coop are funny.
Thank you. Yeah.
Very cool.
All right. Well,
my cat here is going crazy. She wants attention or food or something. She keeps rubbing on the computer and the microphone. So sorry.
Well, we do have a few questions that were posed through our Instagrams as well as Facebook. And I don't know if I sent Jeremy these or not.
No,
but
no, I got the ones. I got those ones.
Those are on the next show.
Yeah.
Okay. So this one comes from Aaron Ryan, and it's basically a drawer slide question. He's basically asking, what kinds have you tried and which ones do you prefer? So, Jimmy, you could be the start off person here.
I go for AccuRide is a brand that I've used a lot. AccuRide or Blum makes drawer slides. They sell them at Home Depot. They sell them, pretty much everywhere. But you got to make sure you get good ones, and you can't overload them. Do you guys remember a display I made with a crushed up car wrapped around plywood, and it looked like a crushed car, but the whole side slid out and opened up like a drawer? I replaced the slides in that thing like 4 times for the client. He kept calling, like, yeah, it happened again. Because they would load the drawer up with extra clothes for the shop, so they would hide clothes in the display. And it would be a couple 100 pounds worth of stuff, and it was a really big, broad, wide drawer, had a lot of leverage, so when you opened it up, what was only a couple of pounds got magnified over the leverage of the open full extensions, and the weight of the drawer itself combined with the material in it. Anyway, the ball bearings kept popping out, so I had to redo that. And I kept trying I got sliders that said 500 pounds, and they broke, even though there was nowhere near 500 pounds. Anyway, you just gotta get good quality slides. Eventually, I got a set of slides that worked for that drawer. But there's the slow closers. I think AccuRide makes a set of slow closers, which are nice because you load them when you pull them open, and then when you go to shut them, they're loaded to kind of slowly pull the drawer face in. Those are nice. Undermounts are really difficult to put in if you don't know what you're doing. But there's obviously lots of guidance on YouTube, and just sort of follow the instructions. So when I've done undermounts a lot. Can you hear my cat? She won't stop rubbing on the computer. Is she making noise?
And we just see her tail.
She's like, I think she just got scared. Like when she gets scared by something, she comes in and she's like all thankful that she's alive. So came in from outside. But undermounts, if you guys ever done undermounts, they look nice, but they are such a pain in the butt to install.
Oh yeah.
And I like undermounts because you could pop the drawer right out. So they have their advantages if you want to pop the drawer out. And also you don't see the slides themselves.
Yeah. And essentially your undermounts, you can make your drawer the extra inch wider. You don't have to leave the room for your slides on the side. So
take advantage of the tolerance between your face frames or cabinet sides.
That looks good. That's right. That looks good. But you're sacrificing the depth, but it almost is indiscernible. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You give up a little bit of depth on the bottom because that's where all the concealment is. But the side mounted slides that are a half-inch thick on each side, those obviously are good for more utilitarian type stuff. And I guess like drawers that you would have, like a drawer for a dresser drawer, where like it's just It looks nice closed. It doesn't really, you're not overly concerned about what it looks like open. You just want to get stuff and close it.
Yeah.
But the full extensions are nice to have, because if you ever made a set of drawers where you made your own concealed rail system out of wood, you can only open the drawer maybe 60% before you got to leave it, so it doesn't want to fall out. But the full extension drawer slides are nice, and they're really easy to put in. They're not as complicated as a lot of people make them out to be. Sometimes if I'm going to do a set of drawers where I have 3 drawers or 4 drawers, I'll make a little jig and screw all the slides in on one side, resting on the bottom of the inside of my frame, and then the same thing on the other side. I use that same jig, so they're exactly the same in relationship to the face frame or wherever. You pick a reference point, you use that same reference point on the other side.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you go put the part that goes on the drawer, you put them all in the same spot, you put them all in, and then you put your face frames on so that everything's spaced nice and evenly.
Yeah, I've utilized the AccuRides, and I've also done center lines, and I haven't done the Blums yet. I was going to use Blums for like the kitchen cabinetry and office cabinetry, things that are actually a lot smoother that you don't have to fight to open sometimes. Mm-hmm. I've done those soft close on the AccuRides, and I have to say that the experiences that I've had after a certain length of time of being open and shut, eventually that soft close gives up. And
I've had to replace on this one client. I don't know. The one drawer that broke all the time was at the right height of their baby, so I think the kid was just yanking and pulling on the drawer. Mm-hmm. And I had to replace the slides 2 times in that house. And I haven't heard from them in a few years, so I guess it's held up. But they say,
their baby grew up.
I think that's
They finally taught their kid to stop opening the drawers.
We'll put it in the drawer.
Yeah.
But my experience is that it'll go to where it's supposed to actuate the soft close, and then it just slams shut. It's like it just gave up, and it does the opposite reaction now.
Oh, that's funny. See, my experience is they go to the click, they click, and then they don't pull in.
Mm.
You got to give.
I haven't had that yet. I almost want that.
Yeah. That could be dust inside the shelf or whatever. The damping is given up on the ones you're talking about. Yeah, so the damping, whatever would slow that pull-in, is given up. Maybe it might be an air compression or something.
I do think that the AccuRides have a little bit less of a tighter tolerance. So if your drawers are a little bit too wide or too narrow, there is a little bit more of a give to get those started. The center lines have a lot tighter tolerance. So if your drawer is just slightly off, it'll be really, really tight.
An interesting thing, what I've done when I've made frames and I realized that I didn't leave enough allowance and I need maybe a 1/16 of an inch, I will take the drawer and pass it through the table saw and just cut a little tiny, maybe a 2 or 3 millimeter kerf out of the bottom of the drawer where that receives the track that goes on the drawer side. And that's just to move it all over a little bit. I've done that. I mean, obviously you don't want to do that if you're trying to do something fancy. I've done that for more utilitarian, like the workshop cabinets and stuff. But if your gap is too wide, it's good to utilize. If you notice when you're installing the rail slides, there is a cutout in the metal where you have like a big tab inside of the – you ever go to mount them on the inside and you notice you have screws that are like right through the frame, and then you have a couple where the screw holes are through a big tab that's die cut in.
Yeah.
Now that's to actuate a spring-loaded so that you could actually – if you screw your screws mounts just through those 2 tabs – then your rail slides have the ability to kind of pull in a little bit because those big tabs act like a big leaf spring. And I mean, it's very minute, but it does act that way. I've actually taken those tabs and bent them. So that means if you go wider than a 1/2 inch on either side of your drawer, you could take those tabs and bend them out a little bit and then screw them in. And then your rail slides will take up that gap by having those tabs bent out a little. I'm talking like a millimeter or 2. I mean, right. 2 or 3.
Not an inch.
Yeah.
So if you really undercut your drawers, you'd say that's not going to work.
Let's start over.
Oh man, I got a 13-inch drawer and I'm trying to fill the 16-inch gap. Yeah, rebuild the drawer. So.
And then the other thing too is like whenever you're putting on rail slides, if you notice, what a good thing to remember is if you're putting the rail that goes on the drawer, there's usually a hole in the very back that's just an actual hole. Stick it into that hole and screw it so that's anchored there. The one on the front has the adjustable hole. It has the oblong hole. put a screw in the oblong hole kind of generally in the middle. And then when you get all your face frames in place, you could then adjust if you need a little bit of, if you need a millimeter up or a millimeter down, you could loosen the front of those drawer slides, adjust your drawer, tighten them, and then extend it all the way, and then put a couple screw holes where you have just the hole and not the oblong hole. That's something to remember as you start to install them. Leave yourselves adjustability till you're ready to say, okay, everything's where it needs to live. And then you tighten it all in or put the extra screws in. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I do that and I forget to put those extra screws in. And so that by the time I go, I'll do one last look over if it might be a week after I made it and it's been banged around and moved around in the shop. And I'll look at it, I'm like, why? I'm like, oh, I just only ever snug tighten the oblong holes. I never went back in and put in all the, the set screws that'll keep it in place.
Nice.
Why is this one grinding on the washer?
Yeah.
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 But when you get the draw slides in accurately and it feels nice, it's really nice. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're using if you're doing shop made cabinets, you don't even have to go with a store bought slide. You can create out of some scrap wood easy wooden slides. Cut a dado or groove down the side of your drawer, and then put a mating piece, essentially like a tenon or something along the other side, and slide your drawer in that way. So if you're just trying to get into the drawer game and I'm not entirely sure on what slides you want, that's another option. But I've pretty much used Accuride. That's because I can pick them up anywhere. Mm-hmm. So Centerline, I've used them once or twice, but that's because I used to live by a rockler, so I could drive to rockler and pick them up. I don't really like to order my drawer slides. I don't know. I'm one of those people that I want to pick them up. I want to feel them in hand before I purchase them. Mm-hmm. Because to me, that's going to hold potentially a lot of weight and a lot of stress. I have kids that like to slam things and yank things open, so I want something that's going to hold.
Climb up the drawers. I had a client once. She's like, I don't know how the drawer broke. Can you fix this? And I looked and I did my own little detective summation, and I realized she pulled the drawer out and stepped on it to raise up to change the light bulb.
I was just going to say.
She's like, I don't know how this happened. I don't know, because all the screws were literally sheared and yanked through the wood and scraped up. So she stepped on the drawer and she's like, I don't know how. One day the drawer got loose. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's like the kids.
Just magic.
Just like last week, the kids did the same thing. They pulled the drawer out and were getting ready to push up on it because they couldn't reach something. And I was like, do not do that. And then they got really scared. And they do it to the freezer. I'm like, don't sit on the freezer. Why are you sitting on the freezer? And then they broke one of the pantry shelves. I'm like, jeez. So.
They need a jungle gym is what they need.
Yeah.
They have a jungle gym.
It's actually clever that they could, that young kids could look at that and deduce, I need a step. Maybe there's a step. Oh, there's a step right here in the front of this drawer.
Yeah, okay.
And you let them do it, and then they realize, oh, that's not really a step. And so then they have better reference as they get older.
Yeah. I know. I should
step
let
on things
them
that aren't
fall.
steps.
Yeah. Let them get a black eye, bruised knee.
It's very crazy how they can look at something and figure out how to make something work. That little brain. My 3-year-old, she's like, I got to go to the bathroom. I'm like, all right, let me go turn on the light. She's like, no, just give me the remote. Okay, she walks in there with the remote, reaches up and flips on the light, brings you the remote back. She's like, I'm going to the bathroom now.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
That's hilarious. They're so smart. That's for sure.
So.
I
have some. Are we all through the questions or no?
Nope. I was going to ask you if you had a preference, Sam, on your drawer slides that you've used.
Oh. So the last cabinet we made, the blue one, we always this one was more decor style, so we made our own hinges underneath. But before that, I like the soft close. But I've only done a couple projects, 1, 2, that have had drawers. So I'm kind of, Gramps, what's your drawer slide? What's your favorite drawer hinge?
Drawer.
Slide.
Wrong word.
Drawer hinge.
Take 2.
Drawer hinge slide.
He just said drawers don't have hinges. I was like,
What's my favorite?
Yeah. The drawer slide.
I have a good luck with just a lot of, on some of the finer pieces with just a rail down the center with the catch that rides along the rail. So when you pull it out, it doesn't tip that far.
Yeah.
In the little nylon corners that allow it to slide over.
Yeah.
Oh,
fine pieces. If you
That's
you
just a slide you would make into the drawer.
full extension slides.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you guys used that in that blue,
big blue
cabinet, didn't you?
Because Gramps is more fine furniture, and then my clients have been more like rustic, modern. But also when hers is like a decor piece. So when you pull it out, you don't she didn't want to see the hinges.
You don't.
So we just made them.
Slides.
Oh my gosh! Oh my god!
Sam.
Slide.
Do you need a script?
Slinges.
Yeah.
Switches. Yeah, there you go.
Stop, because it's now in my head. All right.
But the
Gramps, you can just take over. I'm gonna go.
The South Flows undermounts are nice. You don't see them.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I find the center slide and little nylon corners do a good job.
Yeah.
So.
I need to post some of his stuff. His stuff is awesome.
You've said that for a year now.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Starting to follow in Jeremy's
I
footsteps.
have another full-time job, guys.
And
Okay.
so do I. And I got full-time kids.
You know what? I'm quitting. We're done.
No, don't quit. Don't quit.
Don't
Grandpa.
quit, please.
All right. So I have questions for Jimmy.
No,
from
we got-
Bull-
no, those are on the next show.
Those are our next one.
Oh, sorry.
Look, Sam,
All right. Let's finish this show and then I can ask.
Let's go.
you're getting too carried away here.
Yeah.
Too prepared.
Okay, AJ Ehrlich sent in another question. It says, how do you choose the right hinge? Oh, we're going to talk about hinges now. There you go.
There we go.
Slides.
Just gonna start saying
It's
slides.
opposite day. It's opposite day.
It depends. I always use a lot of the European concealed hinges, and then there's a lot of confusion around that. If you're new to those European concealed hinges, I like them because they're super adjustable. They're a little hard to put in, and I developed a technique which I get them right every time. And do you guys ever use those type of hinges where you got to drill a 40 millimeter hole and stick them in there, and then you got to do the clips into the inside of the
I
cabinet?
never
frame?
have, but I'm going to pretty soon on a cabinet build I'm doing.
Well, I did a Rockler video about just over a year ago. I guess it was more than a year ago. It was like a year and a few months ago, where I made this big tall cabinet, and I showed a technique how to put those concealed hinges in by making a fake edge of your door and drilling holes all the way through it. You drill your 40 millimeter holes all the way through it, so then you could use it for the left and the right. So wherever those holes are, you use them for one side to put up the hinges on the left, and then you flip over that guide you make and use the hinges for the right. But when it comes to those concealed hinges, you got to choose correctly, because is your frame going to be inside the jamb or is it going to be over? So it's inside or overlay. Conceal, I forget, is it full overlay?
Yeah.
Full overlay.
Quarter or 3/4, and then inset.
Yep. Inset, yep. So you got to make sure you know what you're asking for. And it's good to go do a quick Google search, and you can see all the different configurations, and then you'll know what you need. Is your door going to be inside the frame, over the frame, or if it's going to be right next to another door that also opens in that same jamb? You got to be sure that you have the correct spacing. And that's why you need to know which ones to get. And they're really great, because if you're going to build a piece of furniture, then go install it somewhere, you could just pop all the doors off and paint them separately. Well, not necessarily paint them, but carry them separately. And if you have a problem, like I've been to clients' houses where the door, I made a piece of furniture all with this crazy veneer, and somebody at the house started playing with the veneer and peeling it back and broke the corner off. I think a kid did it. Blame the kids for everything. And so I had to re-veneer the front of the door after about a year, and I was able to just pop the door off, do it, and bring it back. And when I did that, a very funny thing happened, because the cabinet I made was in a sunny room. So when I went back and re-veneered the door with the proper veneer that I got the same time as the other stuff, I saved a bunch of it. I popped the door back in, and suddenly the cabinet was gray compared to brown. And in context, you didn't notice it until you brought a brand new piece in. So when I re-veneered that door and popped it back in, it was brand new, that hadn't been sitting in the sun for 12 months. Pretty incredible how much the sun can really affect the finish on something. And so concealed hinges are really nice. Occasionally, I'll use a piano hinge. And when I do use a piano hinge, I had a little Twitter conversation with a fan. He made a blanket chest, and he said, now the big scariest problem is how do I hinge it? And I suggested using a piano hinge. He didn't know anything. He didn't know. He was going to use 2 little 2-inch hinges or piano hinge. And I suggested he use a piano hinge. And what I like to do is I epoxy it in place. Once it's epoxied in place, you gently open the door because it easily pops right off. You gently open the door and pop in 2 or 3 or 4 screws on either side. And then you check and make sure it stayed where you want it. And then you drive all your screws home. And that's how you do it. Because when you try to put a piano hinge, it's impossible to get it to live in the right spot. You could measure if you're a total nerd, like machinist nerd, like I am not, and land your screw holes, using calipers and say, okay, the screw hole goes right here. There's no other place for it. And, if you're really good with that, then you could do it. Me, I like to see it. I like to see it done before it's done. So that's why I'll epoxy the hinge in place, let it cure really good for an hour or so because it pops right off of the chrome or the brass finish. You got to really be careful. And then screw it home.
Hmm. That's cool. We used a piano hinge for this big wall cabinet to hide the TV. So, and it was frustrating getting the screws exactly where we wanted them. Yeah. So
yeah,
that's a good idea.
When it comes to putting in those first couple of screws in a piano hinge, if you're not using epoxy or if you're just going to kind of eyeball it and start screwing it in, I put 1 screw in for reference on either side or 2 on either side just to see how it works. And if it's good, then we're good. If we need to manipulate the hinge so that the hinge pin sticks out a little bit higher on one side than the other, I start using the screw head to manipulate the motion of the hinge. So I use the screw head, the bevel on the screw head. I'll put it, it's hard to show what I'm doing, but if there's the hole, I'll put the screw all the way to the extreme end of one of the holes. And when I screw it in, when the bevel seats, it'll push the hinge up. Mm-hmm. So it depends on what direction I want to go, whether it's left, right, north, south, east, west. I'll put the screw, I'll start it right at the edge of that opening. And then when it goes all the way in, it pulls it in that direction. So that's another way to manipulate and move around a hinge. Does somebody have a parakeet?
Mm-mm. No, that's the drill press.
Oh, it sounds like there's a parakeet.
It did. I was like, what was that noise? But he's drilling something.
So that's my technique to manipulate a regular hinge. One where it has to get mounted with several screws. Even if it's a door hinge where it takes 4 screws on either side or a piano hinge, you could manipulate where you want it when you're first starting. Otherwise, you get too many screws. And then do you guys ever put in a piano hinge and you're like, oh, it's just completely screwed. Yes. And all your holes are in place and you don't know what to do. Take it and flip it completely over and you have a whole new set of brand new holes. So that's another technique.
Oh. Yeah. That's a good little tip.
Yeah. I didn't know that. So the holes don't align on both pieces? I was just going
to say, they don't match up?
No, well, that's it. Usually you cut it randomly. So the holes will all be shifted over an inch or 1/8 of an inch or 1/10 of an inch. I meant to say a centimeter or 2 in either direction. So if you randomly cut it and it happens to be exactly spaced from either end of the hinge, then the flipping it may or may not help you, but I've been in that circumstance where let's say I'm doing a 10-inch piano hinge or a short piano hinge, and I only have 8 or 9 holes on either side, and I screw it up completely. Just give it a flip, shift it over the holes if you have the opportunity to do that.
I do wish so. Some of my favorite hinges to use, in fact, I have still a whole bunch in the shop, are from Brusso Hardware. It's just the quality behind them is so tight, and they're beautiful hinges. I wish they would make something like a piano hinge. I feel like when I need to use a piano hinge, I got to go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and it's just cheap stamped steel, and sometimes it doesn't feel like it opens smoothly. And I wish there was somebody there that made a very high quality piano hinge.
So, yeah, that would be too expensive probably. That's why. Because if you notice, a regular piano hinge is usually stamped. Yeah. And the Brusso hinges are cast. Mm-hmm. And then machined, so that's usually why. But I mean, I'm assuming that's why.
Well, then somebody needs to stamp it out of something a little bit thicker than like a piece of paper.
You know what's really cool? I mean, again, we talked about welding early on, but they make piano hinges for welding for steel. And there's a supplier near me where you can get like a 6-foot piano hinge, and it is sturdy as hell. And
that's cool.
It's out of like 16th or 16 gauge steel or even heavier, and those are crazy. You weld them in place, obviously. You don't need screws, but those are great. You cut them to any size you need, and awesome.
That's cool.
Nice.
There's also bullet hinges, and that's I'm making a project in the next couple of days. I'm making a big, giant, heavy steel medicine chest, and for lack of a better term, it's a low-profile cabinet that gets screwed to a wall, and it's going to hold my friend's knife collection. And it's going to have a steel face frame with a wired steel piece of glass right in the middle of it. So it's going to look a little vintagey, and because we wanted to kind of make it look like a safe, I bought bullet hinges from McMaster. And a bullet hinge is what you see on the side of a safe. You ever see a safe door, you could swing it all the way open and then pick it straight up and off of the hinges? Those are bullet hinges on either side, and you weld them in place. You got to make sure you weld the correct side of each one of them. Otherwise, you're really going to screw up. And so the bottom part of the bullet hinge has a peg. You weld those on. You usually weld them in place at the same time, but then you could open the door completely and unhook it. So you could move them around separately. But a bullet hinge is really cool and fun to use if you're welding.
It's kind of like those half pins.
You put the pin
like a barrel
through
hinge
and pull it out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah. Well, actually, the pin stays in the bottom part. It's like a farm gate where you put the pin in there. It sticks up, and and then you take your gate and you hook it onto it, and it's the same type of configuration.
Oh, that's cool.
But they're usually oblong, so they look like bullets. You have like in the same size, top and bottom.
There's so many hinges.
Think of Pirates of the Caribbean. That's kind of how those gates were on that in the movie.
I need to learn more about hinges and stuff.
Hinges and slides, and you got to do like 2 index cards and show a picture of a slide on one side of the back, and a picture of a hinge on the other side of it.
I know. This is what.
This is what it looks like. Okay, Todd Thomas sent in our last question for this episode, and it's evaluating used tools and how do you know which ones are worth it?
I say personally, just whatever you like. If you see a cool used tool and you really like it, like I'll get emails from people who go, "Yo, check out this restoration I did," and I'll look at it, I'm like, okay, that's like a cheap Sears hand plane. It's not worth anything, but if that person finds value in it and the education they got restoring it, I think that's the most important part. But I'd look at it and say that's a 25-cent hand plane from a garage sale. I wouldn't even look at it. But when it gets down to vintage stuff, for me personally, I go for the more old cast material stuff that's cast. Like I sent my buddy a picture a couple weeks ago because I know he collects these type of things and he resells them. I was at an Antique Mart, and this guy had these overhead drive shafts. They would go on a line shaft, these overhead pulleys. They were like 12, 13-inch slack belt pulleys. And they didn't look super old. They were stamped metal, and I sent the pictures, and he right away said, they're kind of a dime a dozen. He goes, we're really going for the cast ones. If you see, those are like late 1800s to early 1900s. The later ones were all stamped metal. So he said the cast are a little bit more desirable. He goes, those I could get any day. So it's that cast usually when it comes to old machinery, heavy cast. You guys notice my power hammer? Have you been watching any of that Instagram stuff?
Yeah.
That power hammer's from it was actually the actual patent date that says right on the front is 1890s, but that one was made in June of 1900. It says the built on date right on the front of it. So that is 100 and how far away is it 118 years ago?
I'm horrible at math.
Yeah, me too.
118 years ago.
Yeah.
Because we're in 2018, so 1900 minus 2. Hold on, let me add this up. Carry the one.
Carry that 2.
Yeah, okay, 118 years. So that is a crazy cool old machine. I bought that, and I said I just wasted $2,500 because I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with this. I'm never going to get this running. I overshot my ambition here, but I got it. I got it done. I always say, every project I take on, I will eventually finish. There's only one thing that's going to keep me from finishing these projects, and that's if I drop dead. But in the meantime, I'm going to just keep moving every little project along further and further and further. So when it comes to restoring stuff, you just got to find it, even if it's like a chintzy little such and such. If you personally like it and you can get something out of the restoration, I think it's fine. If you're going to buy stuff to resell it, then you got to be picky like my friend and say, you know what, we really got to find things that's going to net us more money than we paid for it. But if it's an education and a love and something that is you're passionate about, then you could restore a sewing needle. It doesn't matter. It's just what you really like. It's what you want to do.
Nice.
I was really big into collecting like hand planes and bracing bits, and I'd go to garage sales and flea markets, and just that would be like my mission to look for things like that.
Yep.
And I wanted to show you one, Jimmy, since you like antique tools. I picked this one up probably about, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago, but it's a 45 degree.
Wow. I have that same exact one. It was given to me as a gift by my friend's grandmother.
It is so cool.
Same one, but yours looks in really good shape. Mine is all old and rusty.
Yeah, but the little worm drive gear in here is just a little bit kind of, it needs restoration. It's just a little tight.
Oh, right on.
But I was really impressed by how good a condition this was. So
yeah,
it's just so odd things like this that I like looking for.
It's so funny. I could picture the moment when a guy would have bitten a brace in 1880s, 1890s, had to drill a hole right next to the wall, flush up parallel to the wall, and he went, "Hold on a minute, how am I going to do this? I should have did it before I built the wall against the framing." So that's a very cool. It's a bit and brace with an offset crank so that you can go up against the wall. And I had one hanging in my apartment until my girlfriend came along and turned my apartment into her man cave and de-man caved my man cave. De-man cave. There should be a show where women come in and de-man cave.
There should be.
That would be the name of the show. Yeah.
No, that's not a good idea, because then that's going to give everybody else's spouse an idea.
They don't need the idea; they already have it.
Yeah.
Oh, let's take
it comes with DNA.
What are you talking about? The D-man cave is the house.
Yeah,
we're out in the garage.
Oh no! Wait till they start getting designs on the garage. This is going to be a really nice guest house. It's going to be really nice.
Yeah,
we can just pull your tools out in the field. This is great. When my mother comes to stay.
Yeah. I'm like, no.
D-man cave.
And then you come home one day and everything's out in the yard, and you're like, what?
It's not out in the yard. It just slowly, systematically disappears. You're like,
where did that go?
Honey, where's that drill? I needed that drill.
I used to have a double bit axe leaning in this corner. Where? Oh, did you want that? It sat in the same place for so long. Did you really want that?
Yeah, you never touched it.
Yeah, see, you got it down.
You're like, no, I guess not. I guess I guess I really didn't
want to
need
touch
that.
it. Now I want to touch it.
Now I want it. Well, it's already gone, so sorry.
Well, I guess I'll go buy another one.
So I think when it gets down to vintage tools, it's your own personal preference. We all have so many weird collections, and I'm at a moment now where I need to do another collections video because I'm at 1.2 million followers on YouTube. So every time I hit 100,000 mark, I always do a collections video. So what I was talking with Brett, because I have a couple different collections, but right now there's one I want to do which is inconvenient. I have like 8 or 9 safes, antique safes, and I'm not at some of them are in storage. So when I get them all in one spot, I'll do that collection. So what I'm going to do for my collections video this week, I'm going to do the power hammer. It's the only one I have, but it's the beginning of my collection. So that's how it's going to be, kind of more conceptual collections video. So.
Perfect.
Yeah, nice.
All right, so we're going to move on to reminding you guys that there's an after show for our patrons. So if you want to sign up, you guys get full access to the after show. So definitely go check that out. And I would like to remind you, if you listen to the show on iTunes, to please give us a 5-star rating. It helps us reach greater audience. So thanks, guys.
Yeah,
we also want to thank everyone for all the questions that have been sent in for not only this show, but the show after that'll be coming up next week. Jimmy's got a lot of great knowledge, and we appreciate the insight.
We're going to rapid fire questions at him.
Yeah.
We are.
So be sure and catch next week's episode. It'll be fun. So, Jimmy, for the people that don't know, which I don't know if they must be hiding under a rock if they don't know who you are, but how can they get in contact with you just to ask you some questions?
I say just Google me. And that's my best website is the Google. Google me. Instagram. I get a lot of DMs on Instagram. Facebook, not so much. I'm kind of fading on Facebook, and it's been for a while. Yeah, it's just this. Honestly, Facebook is just too much, too often, too many changes. Like every time I open the interface, I never know where to find what I need to find, and I don't know what's up with the Google search or the so-called search on Facebook. I'll go to search exactly the name of the person I've been told to look for, and it doesn't show up. And then like 2 days later, I'll be searching somebody with the same initial, and I'll go, all of a sudden that shows up. So I don't know. I just get frustrated with Facebook. And what really upset me about Facebook one day was I was answering questions when I was doing the TV show 7 or 8 years ago, and that was really the main communication. I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have Twitter at the time. And so I was my main thing. And then one day I saw this little tiny line. It said other. And I'm like, what the hell is this other? And I clicked on that, and there was hundreds of other emails that I didn't know was just sitting behind this little word other. And I clicked other, and they had emails and questions from like the 3 previous years I had no idea was sitting there. And now I'm overwhelmed. I can't possibly answer everything that comes my way, but I try. And if you find my email's hidden online. It's my name at mac.com. People ask me questions. I go, this is more than just a Twitter question. Just email me directly, and I can answer you. So Jimmy Diresta at mac.com. And that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you guys send him an email, it's going to be like a giveaway or a drawing that if your name is lucky enough to be responded to.
No, I talked about this on our podcast. I sit sometimes. I flag them, and then they go in the flag section for it to be answered later. And then if I'm like getting my car oil change or something, I'll start going through them and answering them when I have nothing to do.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, how can people get in contact with you?
Mainly on Instagram. You can send me a DM, and then samryandesigns.com is under construction. So you can just send me an email at samryandesigns@gmail.com.
Your website is like road construction. How long is it going to be down for?
So he just started it because he was working on someone else's.
You got to get like a Wix or a Squarespace.
I tried to do that, and I'm just not very good at it.
Sam, I would have helped you build the Squarespace website. Literally, I can have an entire site built in a day on Squarespace.
Yeah, well, he's really nice, so I'm just letting him do it. So.
So, Jeremy, what about you, man?
Pretty much find me on, like, if you want to get in contact with me quickly on Instagram, send me a DM. If you send me a DM and I haven't heard from you, comment on a post and just say that you sent me a DM. That way I know to go check into that other section, or that what does it say, pending requests or something.
Yeah, what annoys me about that's another thing, because it's another Facebook thing. It says you got to go through each one of them. I have thousands of them. I wish you could just hit OK to all of them. You got to go through each one. I'll answer everybody. I don't care.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if people send me angry, mean things, I think that's funny too. So I don't care. I just want to accept all of them. You can't hit accept all. That's what drives me nuts.
Yeah, that is annoying.
So other than that, you can go to my website, countrysideworkshop.com. There's a contact form. That'll send me an email. If you find me on YouTube, anywhere else like that. So in fact, right after this, I'll be uploading another video to the YouTubes. So that I'll have another video up today.
Very good. All right. And the easiest way to get in contact with me is basically just through my website, rhwoodshop.com. Contact information's right there. You can send me an email. But if you want to get in contact with the show, easiest way to go about doing that is through our email, which I mentioned earlier in the show, which is kickback@woodshop101podcast.com. We also have a voicemail, which is 409-234-3959. We'll also feature those on the show if you have questions. And you can also use your voice memo app on your phone and send it to the email I just mentioned. And those just have a much better sound quality if you just don't want to call the voicemail. So that pretty much wraps up the show. We appreciate Jimmy for being on. Like I said, he is just a wealth of knowledge, tons of experience, and he's just an awesome guest host.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on, Jimmy.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. And my cat too says thank you. She's right outside the frame, right here.
She's so cute.
She's knocking stuff over on the table.
So from Jimmy, Jeremy, Sam, and myself, we want to wish you guys well. Please be safe in your shops, and we will talk to you on the next podcast episode. So 1, 2, 3, boom!
Boom!